In today's video, I'm going to play devil's advocate and give you 8 things to consider before you make the move to Summerlin. Hi, my name is Olga. If you're new here, I make videos about living in Las Vegas. I'm also a real estate agent here. I've been in Las Vegas for over 10 years, and I absolutely love this city. The first thing to consider before making the move to Summerlin are the extra fees. They say that the 2 things that are guaranteed in life are death and taxes, but in Summerlin, you're also guaranteed to pay SIDs. SID stands for Special Improvement District. SIDs are placed on the property by the home builder or the developer. When a developer builds on unimproved land, the city needs to install basic services like sewer, streets, streetlights, etc. to provide for the residents. The developer is actually tasked with paying these fees, but what ends up happening in master plan communities like Summerlin is the developer tax on these fees to the properties that are within that community. So these fees come with the property. So if you buy a home in Summerlin, you, in addition to paying for an HOA fee, if you're in an HOA community, you are also gonna have to pay an SID fee. Typically, these fees are attached to the property for 10 to 20 years until they're paid off. So typically, no one will pay these fees off early because they usually come with a prepayment penalty, and by paying off these fees early, it doesn't actually improve the value of your property. So there's really not that much incentive. If you sell your home, this fee gets passed on to the next homeowner. It comes with the property itself. So there really is no escaping these SIDs if you are someone who's living in Summerlin within this beautiful master plan community. And if you're thinking, maybe I just won't pay it. Well, it doesn't quite work like that. You don't pay your SID fees, they can come after your home and repossess it. So unless you want to deal with that, you better pay those SID fees. SID fees vary depending on which SID area you live in within the community. I did a quick Reddit search and I found a couple of numbers that I wanted to share with you. This is just from 3 months ago. Someone said that their SID fees inside the Reverence community are $750 a year. Reverence is one of Summerlin's newer communities. The homes in there cost around $2.5 million. Of course, there's a range, but that just to give you an idea, this community's been around since 2017. Also, I found numbers for the Pueblos. For the Pueblos, the SADs cost $55 a month. So there's definitely a big range, and it really just depends on which area. And while we're on the subject of SIDs, this brings me to reason number 2 that you might consider not moving to Summerlin, and that's another acronym, and that is HOAs, Homeowners Associations. So Las Vegas as a city has a lot of homeowners associations. Summerlin in itself also has so many homeowners associations. It's actually pretty hard to find a home that is not in a homeowners association in Summerlin. So if you're looking to move to Summerlin, you're likely going to be a part of an HOA. There are pros and cons with HOAs. The pros is that there's a governing body that looks after the community. There's rules set in place, so people have to follow them. You're not gonna find vehicles parked all over the streets. Your neighbor's not gonna have their RV or their boat in the driveway. That's typically a no-no, and you do see a lot of that in non-HOA communities here in Las Vegas. HOA is a governing body that makes sure that all of the residents within the community are following the same rules. And likely, your community is gonna stay really nice because of these reasons. The cons of HOA communities, however, is the rules. In addition to the rules, HOAs cost money. The prices of HOAs vary greatly in Summerlin. You might find an HOA cost of $50, or you might find an HOA cost of $1,000. And of course, the prices depend on what you're getting with the HOA community. A lot of communities in Summerlin are gated or guard gated, so that security is definitely an added cost. the maintenance of the grounds, of the grass, the pools, the tennis courts, amenities, right? So depending on what you're getting within the community, that price point is gonna go up. And because Summerlin does provide so much to its residents, especially within these HOA communities, those prices tend to be pretty high. HOA fees are never going away either. It's a monthly fee or a quarterly fee or a yearly fee that you end up paying, but that fee will never go away. And as long as you are a resident within an HOA community, you're always gonna have that added cost. And the cost of HOAs actually do tend to go up every couple years with inflation. There's different additions to the HOA, and there's really nothing that you can do about it except for pay them. And while we are on the subject of money, reason number 3 why you might not consider moving to Summerlin is a higher cost of living. To give you an idea, the cost of a median price point for a single family home in Las Vegas is $472,000, and this is the most recent data as of May 2024. But a median price home in Summerlin is going to run you an average of $620,000. So that is a significant spike from the rest of the Las Vegas Valley. Of course, Summerlin is still in Las Vegas, so Summerlin does bring up the median price of a single family home for the whole entire valley. And what's really interesting is different parts of Summerlin are definitely higher than other parts. Summerlin West tends to be on the higher end of the median priced homes within Summerlin. It is $811,000. It's almost double the median price for the Las Vegas Valley and around $200,000 more than other parts of Summerlin. Moving on to consideration number 4, and that is the wind. I recently went out onto the streets of Summerlin to talk to locals about what they liked and didn't like about living in Summerlin. And consistently, one of the top things that locals brought up about Summerlin that they didn't like was the high winds that occur very often in Summerlin. Because of Summerlin's location, it's nestled up against the Red Rock Canyon and its proximity to the Spring Mountains. The winds whip over the mountain and they come in hot into Summerlin, and just like that, your furniture is flying in your backyard, your things are flying everywhere, your hair is everywhere, and the winds come often and they come at all times of year. So it's definitely something that's pretty noticeable every time I'm in Summerlin. Some parts of the day, it could be totally fine and there's no winds, and that can change so quickly, and then all of a sudden, you're just in a windstorm. So if you're living in Summerlin, you have to be prepared for those winds. One of my friends who lives by the Red Rock Canyon has a really nice backyard with a lot of cushions and furniture in his backyard. And oftentimes he does have to hook everything together because when the winds come, everything starts flying. So it could be really dangerous if it's, a chair that's flying in the sky, or your property just gets destroyed really easily if you don't make sure that you're preventing everything from flying around and to tie it together, and just consider that it could happen at any time. And while the winds might be slightly more pronounced in Summerlin, you definitely can't escape the winds in the Las Vegas Valley as a whole. It's something that all of the locals always mention to me when I ask them about the winds or something that they don't like about Las Vegas. They always bring it up. So whether you're on the Strip, where I actually used to live, whether you're in Henderson or other parts of the Las Vegas Valley, the winds are just there. They don't go away, and it's just part of the Las Vegas climate. Moving on to reason number 5 that you may not want to live in Summerlin, and that is all of the wildlife and all of the critters that are found in Summerlin. So as you guys know from my past videos, there's so much new construction in Summerlin. And when the new construction, the new home builders are doing a lot of digging, they're digging land that has been uninhabited, so close to the mountain, out there where nothing else is around. So you might find some scorpions in your backyard, you might see a mountain lion, you might see a coyote walking around. You definitely have to be pretty mindful of this if you have animals if you have kids, or just for yourself. If you step on a scorpion, while it's not deadly, but you definitely do have to go get that handled pretty immediately. Just the other day, we were hanging out in my friend's backyard in Summerlin. We were hot tubbing and we saw a scorpion right there. His backyard is very well groomed, very well manicured. But he does live really close to Red Rock Canyon in a new construction community. So he told us that he finds those very often. He actually has this black light that he uses to shine around and look for scorpions because they actually light up in the dark, which I actually did not know until just recently. Oftentimes, Summerlin residents will spot mountain lions and coyotes in their backyards on their nest cams. There's news articles about it. People talk about it all the time. I actually talked to a Summerlin local recently as part of my interviews, and he brought up all of the cool wildlife that walks out of the Red Rock Canyon onto the streets of Summerlin, which was, scary and funny at the same time. But you do have to be mindful, even though Las Vegas is a big city, Summerlin is located super close to the canyon, where there's a lot of open area, a lot of hiking trails. So something to be mindful of and definitely something to watch for. Reason number 6 that you might want to look at, and that is the cookie cutter feel of homes in Summerlin. Because Summerlin is a master plan community that is made up of a lot of different villages, each of those villages have the same look and feel. So in a lot of parts of Summerlin, you'll find homes that look pretty much identical to your neighbor on the left, to your neighbor on the right, and to your neighbor across the street, and really to your neighbor all around your neighborhood. So if you're someone who is looking for a unique custom home, you're likely not going to be able to find that in Summerlin. Obviously, with the HOAs and the master plan community feel, there's a lot of uniformity that you might not find in other parts of Las Vegas. For example, North Las Vegas or Section 10, one of my personal favorite neighborhoods. And the reason for that being is because all of the homes in Section 10 are so different. So if you are looking for a variety, if you want a unique home that stands out from your neighbors, you're likely not going to find that in Summerlin. Just like most HOA communities, there's a lot of limitations that you have with your home. Just to give you an example, you might be limited to just a handful of colors. If you want to paint your home, it might be cream, it might be sand, it might be gray, it might be brown. You definitely can't go too out of the box in most HOA communities, and anytime that you want to make any changes like painting or adding on anything to your home, any sort of modifications, you do have to go through your HOA and you have to submit an architectural review form, and it's quite the process. And if you want to do something crazy and stand out from your neighbors, the HOA might not approve that because they want all of the homes to look very uniform and very much so the same. While there's definitely a variety of different home builders in Summerlin, including Toll Brothers, Pulte, Richmond American, there is still a lot of similarities within each of those neighborhoods. So for example, the Reverence community that I spend a lot of time in, it's all built by Pulte Homes. The new Reverence community that's being built right down the street, it's also being built by Pulte Homes. You're gonna find a lot of the same finishings inside, a lot of the same coloring on the outside, and just overall the same look and feel. And this also goes for some of the older villages within Summerlin. There were only a few builders when Summerlin started in the 90s, so each of the villages definitely has the same look and feel. While you might find variety within the different villages, but within each of the villages, there's definitely a lot of similarities. And while we're on the subject of the look and feel of your home, this brings me to reason number 7 to consider, and that is the size of your lot. Summerlin has smaller lot sizes than the rest of the Las Vegas Valley. To give you an example, the neighborhood that I moved into recently in Las Vegas, Spanish Oaks, it's been here since the 70s. And while all of the homes definitely have a very similar look and feel within the community, the courtyards and the backyards and the trees within the community within each of the homes definitely vary greatly. Some people have very big backyards. Some people have very big courtyards, front yards. There's a lot of variety within this older neighborhood. There's also a ton of trees and a ton of greenery within this community. Whereas Summerlin, of course, a newer master plan community, there is a lot less trees and a lot less greenery because the community is using a lot more desert landscaping, and that's of course for efficiency with water. Las Vegas doesn't have that much water to water all the greenery and the trees that's already here, and also trees take up space. So why put in a tree and a courtyard when you can squeeze in another home? There's definitely a lot less space in Summerlin between you and your next door neighbor. And your backyard might be quite a bit smaller than a home that you might find in North Las Vegas or Section 10 or even in Spanish Oaks, some of the neighborhoods that have been in Las Vegas for a lot longer than Summerlin. Number 8, the last thing on my list to consider is lack of public transportation. So you move to Summerlin and you're excited to be within the community, and maybe you decide to give up your car or decide to have a walking lifestyle. Well, you might have a hard time getting around inside Summerlin and outside of Summerlin. Las Vegas is a very spread out city, and for the most part, people do drive to get around. While there's definitely some public transportation in Summerlin, there is a couple of different bus routes that run up and down Charleston, and there's buses that go from Summerlin to downtown, and then buses that go from Summerlin to the Las Vegas Strip, but they're pretty limited. But in general, you're gonna have a really tough time getting around if you don't have a car. So unless you're planning to be biking, you're definitely gonna be pretty limited to your public transportation options. There is bike trails around Summerlin, and of course you can walk if you live somewhere close to a grocery store or downtown Summerlin. But in general, you're gonna have a pretty hard time getting around Summerlin and the larger Las Vegas city area without a car. Of course there's Lyft, and of course there's Uber, and you might have some luck with public transportation, but overall it does make things a little bit more challenging to not have a car in Summerlin. Well, there you have it, my list of 8 things to consider before moving to Summerlin. If you still want to move to Summerlin, I'm your girl. I'm gonna put my number here again. Feel free to give me a call, send me a text, send me an email. My contact details are below in the comments. I would love to talk to you about Summerlin or the Las Vegas area in general and answer any and all questions that you have about moving here, about living here. Thank you so much for supporting my channel, and I will see you in the next one.